All our lives we've heard about the dawning of the age of Aquarius from song by The Fifth Dimension and an album by Pink Floyd called Piper at the Gates of Dawn, and referred to in this lyric by Led Zeppelin, the Piper's calling you to join him. These songs are from the 60s and the 70s, but did you know what specific astrological date it referred to is January 11, 2020? Those hippies all the way back then were tuned into this state coming up.
At the Saturn-Pluto opposition of 1965, we had the explosion of American troops in Vietnam as the Cold War heated up. Vietnam was an East-West clash, here ostensibly between the free world and communism. Back in the United States, an anti-war movement was building and Martin Luther King was at the forefront of the civil rights movement. Continuing with the Mideast theme, that region was a tinderbox and led to war by 1967.
At this opposition they looked forward to this upcoming conjunction which promises an end to karmic cycles.
There is a story from Germany where the village was infested with rats. A piper offered to get rid of the rats if the people paid him. He played his tune and the rats followed him to the river and drowned. Then they did not pay him. Not only did they not pay him, but they called him names. So he played his tune and the children followed him to the river and drowned. This is where the expression pay the piper comes from, and they do not play music in this village in Germany to this day. You may have heard this story in your childhood. The reason Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd were on about it is because of this coming aspect comes before these planets move from Capricorn to Aquarius.
Piper at the Gates of Dawn. 1284. The town of Hamlin, where and when the Piper story comes from. Pluto conjunct the Sun, Jupiter also there in Capricorn in 1284 and 2020 conjunct reuniting of Saturn and Pluto around this time will be with the South Node, which will be a dissolution of karmic cycles started 750 years ago.
That on that same date, okay, maybe a day or two before that, Uranus is stationary direct and then goes direct. And of course, those of you that understand the symbolism of Uranus, change, unexpected change, freedom, liberation from bondage, okay? At the time when planets are going direct or about to go retrograde, they're called stationary. And they're very powerful at this point in time. They do mean something significant. So while we're seeing this situation of Saturn conjuncting Pluto, Uranus is very strong. And with Uranus, you're never quite sure which way it's going to go. You just know that it's going to bring in something unexpected, something that is liberating. This could indicate the universe is deciding to liberate us from something. Or it could throw, some nuts and bolts into the machinery and really rev things up. So the main thing here is to understand is the power of Uranus at this particular time. It is not by coincidence that as Saturn conjuncts Pluto that Uranus is going to go direct at that point in time. This will be definitely a very momentous, period.
Saturn and Pluto will conjunct in Capricorn. Astrologers have pointed out other events associated to this aspect. The last time there was a Saturn-Pluto conjunction in Capricorn was in January 1518, 2 months after Martin Luther nailed his 95 Theses to the church door in Wittenberg and began the Protestant Revolution. Saturn is the god of time. For those of you into synchronicities will be spooked that the upcoming Saturn-Pluto conjunct bis on 111. Though in some parts of the world this date is the 12th. What should we expect? Although these planets are not conjunct, we see the rumblings of it this year. The recent partial eclipse was the date of Epstein's trial. The veil is being lifted and we will finally know what's going on. Expect a shift in thinking about what power is and who should have it. Saturn is the traditional ruler of Aquarius because they knew about it before they discovered Uranus. Pluto represents truth. It's truth time. The age of Aquarius begins December 20, 2020. Truth comes from free thinking.
It is things that are, paths and persons, relationships, whatever, dynamics that the universe is no longer supporting, okay? That's what the sun reverse for me is about, a path that the universe does not support. Those things are being dissolved, okay? There's been in this whole series, I feel strongly to Saturn going direct. There's been a whole lot of dissolution energies, karmic closeouts, and endings coming up in this bonus series. Is like something that's felt kind of solid. Something that's, a brick house. Like something that you don't really feel like could just dissolve, in a matter of moments. And yet that's kind of the way it's coming across. That thing, whenever you're feeling this obstacle, is not as solid as you think it is. It's almost this energy of like quantum physics here, where nothing is actually solid. It's that kind of thing. Well, it's like it looks solid, and it looks like a bit of a monolith, but it's really just made of dust. It's a very auspicious time. There's been a lot of interesting things going on in the past week or so, and probably for the weeks to come here. I kind of feel like the rest of the year is going to be kind of like that.
Another sign is the upcoming annular solar eclipse at the start of Hanukkah in 2019, which will make what will look like an engagement ring in the sky. If you've read my book, you'll know that I believe the second coming of Christ to the earth will take place on December 13th, 2020, the first day of Hanukkah. The next day we see the sign of the sun being darkened, moon not giving its light, and stars falling from the sky. I also teach in the book that it will be on December 19th of 2020, which is the seventh day of Hanukkah, that the bride of Christ will be crowned as co-ruler of the earth with King Jesus. This was foreshadowed to us in the story of the chosen virgin Queen Esther, who after a year of beauty treatments in the king's palace was crowned on the seventh day of Hanukkah. The eighth day of Hanukkah is to be a Sabbath, so the first actual day of the new millennium, or the new age, would be December 21st of 2020. What was known as the darkest day of the year in the northern hemisphere will become a day with no darkness, as is mentioned in Zechariah 14. From then on, the Feast of Tabernacles will be celebrated every year at the proper time, because the bride of Christ will no longer be defiled.
December 2nd, 2019 6:20 p.m. Jupiter enters Capricorn.
December 17th, 2025 04 a.m. Saturn enters Aquarius.
December 19th, 2021 7 p.m. Jupiter enters Aquarius.
When Jupiter and Saturn meet, their conjunction will come on December 21, 2020, beginning the age of Aquarius.